to Dante's disciples. The smell of sweat and blood was all over the apartment, thick and in my throat, clinging to my hair, settling on my skin like a punishment. Sarah was on the floor, a shadow of the girl I used to know. Her body twisted, a dark spatter running down her face and neck. Her lips moved once, a wet, rasping sound, and then nothing, just twitching and the occasional cough that sputtered red. I pressed my hands to her chest, trying to force the shallow lift of her ribs, fumbling as if sheer will alone could pump air into her lungs. Adam stood at the other side of the kitchen, using one hand to hold a towel pressed to his face, the other fumbling with another cloth. Jen was wrapping her own forearm where Sarah had struck, trying to keep her hand steady while her other hand trembled with the effort. They worked together in silence, breathing hard, movements clipped and precise, like reflexes at the end of the world. Then the lights flickered and died, plunging us into a black so absolute it felt like the room had swallowed us. In the living room, there was a pop of sparks where Adam's phone was charging. The smell of burnt electronics was thick in the air, and then nothing. Our phones, dead. Jen's screen spiderwebbed, glowing a ghostly blue before dying. No light, and no line to the outside. Panic hit us hard, immediate and physical. I could hear Jen's voice slicing through it. Candles on the table, matches in the drawers, go. We scrambled. My hands tore through the drawers, shoving kitchenware aside, upending shelves. The candles we found were small, desperate flames, but they offered shapes in the void, circles of trembling light in the heavy black. Adam and Jen pressed on their injuries while the firelight threw jittering shadows on the wall. They didn't stop caring for each other. Not for a second. I stayed on my knees at Sarah's side. My hand shook as I moved wet cloth to her mouth, trying to clear her airway. "Come on, Sarah," I murmured, my breath hitching. "Please, just stay with us." She coughed, a wet, miserable sound. She coughed, a wet, miserable sound, as I pressed a cloth to the wound in her head. "Fuck that bitch," Jen said, voice low and sharp and bitter. "She can die for all I care." Isla didn't flinch. She leaned down, hand on my shoulder, voice cutting clean through the chaos. "Don't say that. If she dies, whether it's self-defense or not, it's gonna look like the four of us beat her to death. We need to keep her alive." I swallowed hard, hands tightening around the towels. I could see it now. The headlines, the uniforms, the sterile voices asking us questions we'd have no good answers for. My stomach turned. "We need to get the ambulance here," I said, my voice harsh. "Before it's too late. We can keep her alive. She's still breathing, but if we don't, Isla's right. No one is going to believe any of this. We're all going to go down for murder, manslaughter. It looks like we just beat this girl's sentences. We'll all go down for murder or manslaughter." Adam's face, partially hidden by his bloody towel, was calm in a way that almost made me sick. "Well, she deserved it. But you're right. The power sometimes goes out in this building. But if you go down to the lobby, there's an emergency phone. That's our shot. We can get her an ambulance before she dies." Isla didn't hesitate. She picked up her candle, and her eyes flicked to me for a moment, just a moment, and then she forced a small, terrible smile. "You know, this is the worst first date I could have imagined," she murmured, almost like she were laughing at some twisted joke. "Jen said I'd probably meet a good guy tonight. Despite all this, glad I met you." Her words hung in the air, absurd and human in the middle of this horror. I gave her a weak, almost meaningless smile. She returned it, nodded once, and turned. I watched her unlock the door, candle trembling in her free hand, and step toward the dark alleyway below. "Wait!" Adam's voice called out low and hard. She froze. Then the door flew back, kicked open from the other side. Isla stumbled back, her candle clattering to the ground. I rose from the kitchen as Sean stepped into the apartment. He was a blur of energy and rage, eyes rolling, gun in hand, soaked with sweat. He didn't pause. He didn't speak. He just filled the doorway like a sudden living accusation. "Where is she?" His voice cut the darkness, raw and jagged. "Where's Sarah?" He called her name again, desperation and anger twisted together. "Sarah, come out. Don't hide." I stepped forward, hands raised slowly, putting myself between him and Isla. "Sean, stop," I said, voice tight with panic. "She's not hiding. Just stay calm." He spun towards the shadows, scanning the corners like a predator, shouting to her. "What'd you tell him, Sarah?" he demanded, voice brittle. "You tell him that it was all me? That I beat you?" His laughter was a jagged thing, scraping the walls, gun still raised, voiced raw, the story starting to crawl out. "It began as a way to get cash. Me and Sarah, we did videos for some guy online. Just cheap horror. Rough stuff at first. Staged, actors. But then he wanted more. Whips, real cuts, real blood. And it wasn't just us. Hundreds of others all over the world doing it at the same time. He was focusing on something dark, something old. The snake. He wanted it to come through. Promised us $2 million if I killed her on camera. So we thought we could fake it, Just slap her around a little bit, make it look good. But it knew. It knew we weren't real. Knew we staged it. And now it wants the trade. I felt my stomach knot, my heart hammering. The shadows, the way they seemed to move around Sean. The candlelight was too small, too weak. He couldn't see Sarah, couldn't see her body in the gloom. But for a moment, in the darkness, behind Sean, I thought I saw something. Then the lights flared on. Bulbs burned white, cutting through the darkness of the apartment like a blade. Every tile, every smear, every line of blood was suddenly there, sharp and unforgiving. And Sarah lay on the kitchen floor, her skull dented, face broken, neck twisted at a cruel angle, blood pooling under her, spreading like a dark river across the tile. Sean saw this and froze. "Back," he said in a low voice and shaking, pointing the gun at Isla and me. He stepped towards her, careful, reverent, like he couldn't breathe until he saw the truth. He saw the body and sucked in a breath. "It needs a trade." He whispered this more to himself than anyone else. Stepping back, he pulled out his phone and turned it on, setting it on the counter. The screen glowing black, a little pulse of static alive in the room. "You can deal with it. It's your problem now." He slowly backed towards the door, careful not to trip on the coffee table. He turned, and that's when Adam lunged. He didn't hesitate. He sprinted towards Sean, diving on him. Adam's body hit him before I could blink. The impact was a living thing. Muscle, bone, fury. Sean's hands tightened around the pistol, shaking the gun's stubborn, lethal weight between them. I dove in, fingers grappling at the metal, teeth gritted, trying to twist it free. But the chaos had its own rhythm. The air smelled of sweat, fear, and something acrid that wasn't quite smoke yet. Then the gun went off. A single, precise crack, and the world concentrated into that sound. Jen's scream tore through the room, high, sharp, a shard of panic that split the floorboards and bounced off the walls. Adam froze for a fraction, his body coiled, eyes catching the impact on her. The rage swallowed him whole. He threw himself into Sean with everything left in his body, battering him. Skin and skull met flesh and floor in wet, terrible percussion. Each hit was a punctuation, a brutal sentence written in the language of fury. Sean sputtered blood, teeth broken to a pulp, the gun still clutched in his hand, now slick and trembling. I fought with him, hands on the barrel, struggling to twist it, to take it away, but Adam's power was a storm I couldn't stop. "Stop!" I screamed, voice raw, but Adam's eyes were somewhere else. On Jen, on rage itself, oblivious to anything else. Sean's body bounced and slid across the tile, each thud a drum of tear in my chest. Finally, Jen's second sound reached him. Not a scream, not a shriek, but a fragile, trembling whisper. "Adam, help me." That single plea broke through. Adam froze, mid-pummel, chest heaving, sweat streaking his face in dark rivulets. His hands, red and shaking, fell towards her. He sobbed, the force of everything unspooling, and crawling towards Jen, ignoring Sean now, oblivious to the ruined body before him. Isla grabbed a towel and lunged for Jen, pressing her hands to the wound, squeezing, applying every bit of pressure she could manage. She worked fast and precise. Her face was pale, eyes wide, hands trembling, but controlled. Some part of her mind still clinging to the impossible reality of keeping life inside of a bleeding body. I remained locked in the struggle with Sean, the gun a stubborn artifact of death, twisting, jerking, sparking fear through every nerve. He sputtered, gasped, spat blood, his ruined face a pulp of teeth and skin, a reflection of violence made flesh. The room smelled of iron and smoke and sweat and blood, every breath tasting like ruin. And then, the apartment changed. The candles we'd knocked over now flickered with feral life of their own, shadows licking the walls, writhing like fingers, exploring the corners, probing the dark. A small red flame had caught the baseboards, hungrily climbing, yellow tongues licking at the paint, curling smoke upward in a spiral that seemed almost intelligent. My senses screamed warning, but nothing could pull me from the morass of panic, horror, and adrenaline. Then one of the phones shivered. A strange glow emanated from the cracked screen, soft at first, then pulsing, living. I could feel the air in the apartment shift, a static hum crawling across my skin, whispering of things I could not see but knew were real. And from the darkness, it came. A hand, impossible, blacker than shadows could claim, jagged, shapeless, rippling reality around it, breaking the lines of what should have been normal. It emerged slowly, intentionally, dragging Sarah by her hair. The sound, the snapping of her neck and bones was horror, yet disturbingly quiet. Her eyes snapped open, wide with terror, lips moving in wordless pleas, a silent prayer I could hear in my own bones. Isla lunged, fingers clawing at Sarah's ankles, trying to anchor her, to resist the impossible tug. She slipped on the blood-slick floor, falling back, tears streaking her face. The creature did not pause. Sarah's skull met the phone's cracked plastic rim. The bones groaned, teeth grinding against the impossible edge. Her shoulders buckled, spines bending, limbs flailing in a grotesque rhythm of terror. I wanted to move. I wanted to stop it. But Adam was lost to Jen, sobbing over her, shaking, oblivious to the new horror. My hands found nothing to grasp, only air thick with fear and smoke, fire licking higher, curling shadows alive with menace. Sarah's body was halfway inside the phone. Only legs trembling and kicking. Sarah's body was halfway inside the phone. Her head gone. Only legs trembling and kicking, betraying the terror inside. I could see the impossible stretch of her bones, the cracking of skull, the retching of shoulders, the way the thing pulled with inexorable patience. Sean's voice broke through the mechanical crackle of the phones, burbled through his ruined mouth. "The sneak, it's here." Static hummed from the phones, shadows crawling across the floor, across the counters, up the walls like a disease. Fire hissed in the corners, devouring everything it touched, smoke curling like living fingers. Isla fell back against the wall, eyes wide with terror, frozen. Adam crouched over Jen, crying, pressing, trying to maintain life in a body already betrayed. His sobs tore through the room, a human sound drowned in the eldritch symphony of horror. And I, frozen, senses assaulted on all sides. Sight, smell, touch, hearing could do nothing. Everything rational shredded, everything familiar dissolved. The hand tightened its grip on Sarah, drawing her further into the phone, her screams reduced to grasps. Her screams, muffled, emanating from the speakers. The sharp sound of her bones snapping against impossibility, flesh drawn against plastic, her body trembling in exquisite, terrible violation. Sean's laughter returned, half sob, half cackle. Half cackle, a broken human sound twisted into something beyond comprehension. "He needs a trade," he rasped, shaking, his ruined face contorting into something that was not human, laughing and crying at once, reveling in the horror. The room was alive with static. The fire climbed higher, shadows consuming light, phones glowing, pulsing. Jen moved beneath Adam's hand. Adam wept, eyes to the sky, lost in his grief, his fury dissolved into desperate care. Isla's tears streamed freely, face pale, breath shallow, yet still attending the impossible. And I watched, felt, and could do nothing. The apartment was no longer just brick and plaster. It was a living, breathing thing, warped by the intrusion of the sneak, by the blood, by the rage and the grief of all of us. I could hear the fire hissing, the smoke curling, the faint crackle of static, the scraping of impossibility along the edges of what remained human. The sneak waited, patient, vile, watching, measuring, pulling. And it was not done yet. Hey listeners, this is Jae Taylor, and I am the narrator for Dante's Disciple and the writer for The Sneak. This was section 5, and I had such a great time writing this, and I am compiling all the ideas for section 6. Really excited to see what happens with these characters and find out who survives. I can only ask you now, if you like what you're hearing, please feel free to share and comment. Help me hack this algorithm. I'm going to keep writing though and do what I do. You stay spooky.
I ask you, share my voice with others. Let them know that there is warmth in the cold, light in the darkness. My friends, lovers, disciples. This is Dante.